Hello, and welcome to today's episode. I'm going to be your host, the Irrelevant Nerd. Today, we're going to be reviewing Superman the movie from 1978, not the 2025, which is just called Superman. This one is technically Superman the movie. So, I had decided to rewatch this, wanted to get prepared for the newest Superman movie, and this must have been the first time I had rewatched this Superman movie since I was maybe 11 or 12. So it's been 20 plus years. And when I thought back on my experience with it, I remember enjoying it, but never enough to go back and rewatch it. And that's probably just because it was an older movie and I was more focused on what was coming out then, as I feel like a lot of kids do. But went back to rewatch it, and there's nothing new that I can add to the discussion on this movie, whether it's good or bad. The movie's, almost 50 years old at this point, and it's been talked about to death because it is the first major comic book movies. I mean, you had the Batman series movie. You did have some the serials that were on TV for both Superman and Batman, but this is the first blockbuster. And so it's been talked about to death, but I do still want to talk about it some more because I was just blown away by how great this movie really is and how well a lot of it still holds up almost 50 years later. And so it starts with this intro of a kid reading Action comic books, the books that Superman originally came from. And it slowly transitions down into the page and brings us into the world of the movie, which I really loved because it sets up, this is a comic book story, and the first shot shows us that it's a comic book story by quite literally taking us into the comic. And it brings us to this title sequence, which is admittedly very long. Title sequences used to be much bigger than they are now, but it's great. It's so good. It looks great. The music is just next level. John Williams he is the best at what he does. I love Hans Zimmer and Michael Giacchino, and there are a lot of composers that I really love, but when you think of the most iconic theme songs of all time, it is John Williams. It's Star Wars, it's the Superman theme, it's Jurassic Park, it's Indiana Jones. He's just the best. Created magic here, love the theme, and I understand why so many Superman projects try to kind of play off that theme because it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect for Superman. So we get out of the title sequence, puts us on Krypton, and I actually think Krypton looks really good. It very much looks like a product of the 70s and 80s because it was released in the late 70s, but I love the crystal look. I love their outfits and they lit them up a little bit, and obviously the special effects are not the best, but I think it looks good and establishes them as this advanced society, and I think they do a really good job. And I like the characterization of his parents worrying about what his place is going to be in this new world, with his dad basically just being he's going to need all these advantages to survive, but he's going to lead these people, and his mom's yeah, but he's never going to be one of them. And so very kind of different views on what they're doing. Very hard for parents, and I thought the scene worked really well. It was very classic telling of the story, kind of very similar to even what you see in Man of Steel, just less epic and less fighting obviously going on, but it transitions. We get him landing in the field in Kansas, Smallville, and you have the Kents drive by and pick him up. And I think the scene plays super well. It's very sweet, wholesome. They find him in the field, and Martha, she wants to keep him. She's all excited about it. And then Jonathan's kind of won over after their tire pops, and he sees this baby trying to lift their car and just smiling at him. And so obviously they take him in, and I thought the scene was done super well. And they even Martha makes a mention about John's weak heart, eventually setting up his fate later in the movie. It's a small line, but it does work well in kind of setting up potential health problems that he's going to have. So it transitions now into Clark being a teenager. The actor that they chose to play him, he looks the part really, really well. Like, he really does look like a young Christopher Reeves. So from a looks perspective, I thought he did great. From an acting perspective, it is one of the weaker parts of the movie. Christopher Reeves just kills it, and I think in comparison, this kid isn't bad. He just, it's a very stilted way of acting, and some of it comes across kind of very cheesy and a little cringy at his delivery, but it shows him being an equipment manager at his school, and he's frustrated by all these guys picking on him, and he gets excited when Lana asks him to come out, and then they're picking on him, and then he races the train to go and catch them, and he gets home and has a really nice talk with his dad, basically saying, like, I don't know why you were sent here, but it's not to score touchdowns. And then he, unfortunately, I think like 30 to 45 seconds after he says that, Clark's already run off, has a heart attack, collapses. Martha sees him, screams. Clark turns, sees him. There's nothing he can do, even with all of his powers. And then his death really marks the turning point for Clark in this movie. He ventures off on his own, talks with his mom about it, and, she's like, I knew this day would come, and blah, blah, blah. And so he eventually starts working his way to what is revealed to be the Fortress of Solitude, to where he meets Jor-El for the first time. Well, Jor-El's like hologram for the first time, and he's letting Superman know where he came from and what he's doing and what his mission is going to be here. And then he makes a statement, like after he says that, they're going to go on this journey together, that by the time you've returned, 12 Earth years would have passed, which I believe puts him like right at 30 years old. But you see him go, and it transitions in to him coming back and flying out of the Fortress of Solitude. And the flying, it is obviously a movie of the 70s, but I actually think the flying looks better as the movie goes on, weirdly enough. I don't know if that's just because you get used to it, but it bothered me less and less near the end of the movie. But what is kind of interesting is when he comes out and he's flying around as Superman, it's like halfway through the movie. Like, the intro to this movie is quite long, and so the title of the movie is Superman, and you don't see him until halfway through, and it's just kind of a very brief scene of him flying, because then the next we see him, he's finally getting to the Daily Planet. He's Clark Kent, and this is easily the best part of the movie. Christopher Reeve's portrayal of Clark Kent is perfect. It's perfect. He seems like a shy, quiet, timid, but super nice guy. His body acting is top notch. Like, the way he kind of hunches over his shoulders and he raises his voice and he's always pushing up his glasses, and he does such a good job of looking like a different dude when he's Clark as opposed to when he's Superman. And right from the beginning, he just nails it. Like, Christopher Reeves is absolutely perfect for this role, both Clark and for Superman. He has the build, he has a good voice for it, he has a good demeanor for it, he seems nice and calm and prepared. And so he meets Lois, which I really loved the characterization of Lois. I thought they nailed it. She's perfect in this movie. However, her name is escaping me right now, but the actor who played Lois Lane, to me, she's easily the worst acted major character in this movie. Her voice is very grating. It's high-pitched. A lot of it seems like over or under reactions given these certain situations. So I loved her characterization, really did not like the acting, thought they could have done better, but it is what it is. Then we get introduced to Lex Luthor, played by Gene Hackman, brilliantly. Very old school version of the character, not quite the tech genius that most of us are familiar with, just due to the Superman cartoon, Justice League cartoons, and a lot of the animated movies that have come out since then. This is very much the old school version. I will say I did like the acting. I liked the characterization, but I wish the character had just a little bit more of depth. Like, how did he get this layer? And because we'll talk about his scheme later, but I just wish they had shown more about how he got this underground layer and how he came to be the person that he was. But that's a minor gripe, because what we did get, it was great. And so we're finally introduced to kind of all the main characters, and then we have like the first major action scene of the movie, which is the helicopter crash that Lois is in. And the shot of Clark running across the street and revealing the S on his chest for the first time, it's brilliant. It's such a simple shot, but it works so well. And it shows him past the phone booth and kind of give this look to the camera, which he does quite a lot in this movie. Like a lot of winks at the camera, and they're actually all really funny. It works pretty well. Like, this movie's a lot funnier than I remembered it being, or I had anticipated it being. But he manages to grab Lois after she slips, and then he grabs the helicopter and flies it back up. And honestly, one of my favorite parts about the scene is it shows him when he grabs the helicopter, it's just effortless. Like, he's so confident and in control. Like, those 12 years that he spent with Jor-El training, like, this is Superman. It's not like Clark learning to be Superman. Like, this is Superman. He's ready to handle his business. He knows what he's doing. He's very confident, very strong. And I love that. It's very, even though this movie is 50 years old, it's very refreshing to kind of see a comic book story told this way. But I thought they did a really good job, and Lois is obviously instantly enamored, and then it goes through it's not like a montage, but it's like a series of short scenes showing his heroic acts throughout the night. Like, he stops a robber, or like several robbers, saves Air Force One, rescues a cat out of the tree, which is such a Superman thing to do. Love to see it. And it kind of sets him up as just this force for good. And then everybody's trying to figure out who this is. Like, instantly grabs the attention of the city, the Daily Planet, Perry White. Like, he wants the paper to be associated with Superman. He wants all the information. He wants to be breaking, and so he's getting everybody hyped up to try to cover this guy. And he slips a note to Lois saying, like, I think it's like, meet me at 8 p.m. And so they have their first meeting as Superman with Lois, and he answers some questions for her story, tells her that he can't see through lead when he's trying to see her underwear, which was kind of a funny scene. And a lot of the facts that he tells her are eventually, unfortunately, used against him by Lex Luthor. But doing it for a news interview is a really great way to give exposition without it feeling like an exposition dump. So I thought the way that they did it was brilliant. But near the end of the interview, Superman takes Lois flying. To me, this was the cringiest part of the movie by far, and it's not even close. It starts out pretty standard, like Superman taking somebody up to fly scene. They're scared, can't get their grip and whatever, but the way that Lois is moving around in the air when she's gripping Superman, it's just very obvious that she's laying on a platform to keep her flat, because Superman is flying flat. But in reality, she'd be dangling straight down from his arm until he eventually built up enough speed to give her the momentum to fly like that. But it looks very odd at first, but the reason it's so cringy is it goes into this inner dialogue by Lois, where she's basically, I believe it's a poem, and she's just basically saying like there's no way this guy could know how much I'm into him, like can you read my thoughts and all this stuff. And it was just so out of place, and it could be because I don't love the acting that it just comes across super cheesy. But yeah, I cringed so hard at this movie. And then she drops him off, and that's how he get his name, because I believe she says like, what a Superman. Oh, Superman. And then that's how he gets his name. That's fine. It's, like she does come up with his name in the comics most of the time, and it's usually because of something like this. So I think it works just fine. And then we have Christopher Reeves coming back in as Clark a few seconds later to take him on like his scheduled date with Lois after she just gotten done with Superman. And this is just another great example of Christopher Reeve's body acting, because she's obviously very distracted, still kind of in La La Land after hanging out with Superman. And there's a scene where he takes off his glasses, and you can tell he's thinking about telling Lois who he is, but he straightens up his stature, his demeanor changes, his voice gets a little bit deeper and more confident. And then she comes out and he snaps right back into Clark, puts the glasses on, hunches the shoulders. It's so good, and it really is not talked about enough, because like Superman and Clark are different. Like, and they're supposed to be different, like intentionally so. And so the fact that they're so different, really, it's a testament to Christopher Reeve's acting. And so this is where, like I said, the intro to this movie is long. And then this is kind of where like the, not the plot, but just I guess the central conflict kicks in, because it reveals Lex's property scheme, which, it's very quaint. It's a scheme for him to try to get rich. He wants to blow away part of the country, so all of this useless desert land he owns immediately becomes oceanfront property. It's an evil plan for sure, and it's not like terrible. It's just very old school, and the fact that it is just for money is odd, especially given that most iterations of Lex Luthor are extremely wealthy. And so I think the implication is that this one is not. But that was kind of what I was talking about earlier when I said there's like not a lot of depth to the character. Is like how does he have this underground layer if he's not already rich? Like, how did he already set up the contraptions and the traps that he killed the cops with earlier? Like, when you see Superman try to come later, he has defenses. Like, how would you possibly do that without having resources? And if you already have the resources, your plan is to just get more resources. So yeah, I don't get it, but it's fine. Like, it works fine for the movie that it's in, but it is very quaint, and I think the more you think about it, it just seems silly. And there's a lot with Lex Luthor's characterization that I think is kind of weak, of like how does he know so much? Like, it's revealed in the interview with Lois that he's from Krypton, and so you have Lex find the kryptonite, which I'm like, that's actually really cool. Like, it shows how smart he is that he figured out, like, oh, he landed here, we'll look at other meteorites landing. But like, how does he just instinctively know that kryptonite is deadly to Superman? Like, Superman is a relatively new phenomenon in their world, and it's not like he would have had time to study, and it's not like there really even is data to study. So how would you possibly know that this is poisonous to him? Like, there are moments like that to me, I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Like, he is smart, but he can't just know things about alien species and their physiology. That's crazy. And because that'd be like, I don't know, it's like someone, let's say they get sent off of Earth right before Earth is destroyed, and like a chunk of the Earth fell with them, and the other species like, oh, we'll just use this to poison them. Well, then how did they live there? It's odd. Like, kryptonite is what it is, and they bring it up that way as kind of an exposition scene to be like, oh yeah, kryptonite kills Superman, that's why it's so bad. But how does he know? Or like when he gets Clark's attention and is like, hey, I've planted this gas that's going to fly up through all of these vents unless you do something. And anything on the world not on four legs is not going to be able to hear this except for you. Which again, even though he does list out some of the powers that he has for Lois, like how do you know the specific frequency or how powerful it is? How did you know he'd hear it at all? Or I don't know. There are things like that when I thought about it, I'm like, this is weird. But we move on. So they go and he wants to blow up this fault line, and so they stage like a series of inconveniences to stop the convoy that's carrying them. And these are moments that they could be very cringy, but I think they work. They're kind of charming. They're very comic book corny, and I don't know. I was into it. They're fun. They're silly. They're harmless scenes. Like, obviously, that's not how it would happen, but you've already had to suspend quite a bit of disbelief watching through this movie. So, to me, that is not the stretch. So eventually, you have Superman come down and try to stop Lex, and it shows him going through all of those defenses that Lex managed to have, even though he has no resources, and eventually is looking around trying to find the trigger for these bombs. Sees the lead case, thinks it's in there, and Lex Luthor is like, don't open that. He opens it, and he's like, I told you so. And it's those moments are actually probably my favorite of Lex Luthor. He's just very very arrogant, and he likes to talk down to people, and in those small moments, I think they nail it the best. So he ends up getting the kryptonite on him, thrown into the water, he's drowning. Miss Tessmacher eventually saves him if he promises to stop the missile that was accidentally programmed to go to her mom first, which I forgot to say that earlier. One of the missiles accidentally programmed to go after the mom. So he promises her, flies out after the missiles, and the scene of him chasing the missiles, it looks incredible. It's one of those ones where, yeah, it's 50 years old, and it'd probably look a little bit better if they made it today, but even to this day, it looks so good. And you know he's going to catch the missile, but they do a good job of building up the suspense as he's trying to like avoid being detected and comes up behind it. And yeah, it looks much better than you think it would. But it's one of those things where it brings up I don't know. We'll get there. One of the things that Lex Luthor says, but he's able to stop a few of the missiles, but then one of them does hit in California and starts to start this massive earthquake. Things start cracking, breaking. Superman manages to put out all of those fires, but he finds Lois and she's dead. And then this is where probably the silliest part of the movie comes in. Some people love the ending, some people don't. I'm okay with it, but it's obviously silly. Superman is so upset by Lois dying that he disregards what Jor-El has told him about altering human history and proceeds to fly so fast that it spins the Earth backward and reverses time. Now, the reason that I immediately was like, wait, what is, there was a scene right before Superman gets the kryptonite where Lex says to him, even you, with all of your speed, would never be able to catch all of the missiles. But apparently, like, not fast enough to catch missiles, but is fast enough to reverse time on Earth. And so there are some like small things like that I'm like, little plot holes here and there that you do just have to let go. But I was thinking about it. And so he flies back, turns back time, and basically restarts it to like right before Lois's car fell into the thing, and she's fine, happy ending. And she has like this little scene of being like, oh, or Jimmy was like, oh, Clark would have loved to have been here. And Lois is like, oh, that's weird. Like, Clark is never here when Superman is around. And you see it start to like click. And then Jimmy's like, oh, I think he like really likes you. And she's like, oh, Clark. And he's like, no, like Superman. And so she becomes distracted and infatuated again, even though she's starting to piece it together at the end of this first movie and ultimately gets there in the second movie. But this is also the reason that I think the ending plays a little silly is not the fact that they use time travel, which is admittedly a story device that I don't love. But he goes back, and where he starts time again, the missile had already impacted, and he stays and saves Lois, which is great, but that means that all of the other things that he had stopped, like the dam starting to break and everything like that, would have all played out and gone way, way worse. Like tons of people would have died, and that's not how it's presented in the movie. So that is a really bad way to show how time travel works. Like even if you can get past the he spun the earth to do it, but that was my biggest issue. Is I'm like, that's not really how time flows. Like once time starts going again, all those other events that you would have stopped keep going. It's not like you only reverse time for this one spot. You spun the entire planet. But anyways, brings us to the credits. Music starts playing. Absolutely fantastic. And so now I stop watching the movie and I just sit there for a couple seconds. And I did have gripes, all of which that I just went over, but I was just thinking to myself, wow, this movie does not get the love that it deserves, being the first major comic book blockbuster and being as good as it is and successful as it was. And Christopher Reeves leaving this legacy of just every Superman actor we have had since then, whether it's TV or movies, are all compared to him because he did do such a great job. So, love this movie much more than I thought I would, just based off of my memories of it. And I will see myself rewatching this more often because it is just a nice, charming time, and it is older, but it is refreshing in a way now that we have so many comic book movies, that this one is so simple, like nothing too complicated, too hard to follow, but I love it. And I would say, if we're rating it on a scale of 10, there are some things that are holding it back, so I'll say it's a 9.5 out of 10, but it really is so good. And if you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor and watch it, especially if you love the character or if you're just hyped for the new movie and want to get more Superman content. This really is a good one. It's available on HBO, or you can rent it off any of the many streaming services, and I strongly recommend you do because this movie deserves much more love. But let me know what you think. Is Christopher Reeves your Superman? Is it Henry Cavill? Is it going to end up being David Cornsweet? Is it one of the TV actors like Tom Welling or not Dean Cain? Dean Cain? Is that right? Whichever Dean plays, like, who's your favorite? Like, where does this movie fall for you? Do you feel any different about it now as an adult, as maybe when you were a kid like I did? But yeah, let me know what you think, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.